Crystal glass shattered before anyone saw it fall. Noemi Cruz didn't flinch. She watched the sparkling shards scatter across marble that cost more than her mother earned in a year. Around her, voices dropped to whispers. Expensive shoes shuffled backward. Someone gasped. Her mother's mop appeared within seconds. Maribel Cruz moved like water. Silent, efficient, invisible. She cleaned the mess while a server stammered apologies, and a manager in a charcoal suit glared from across the Palm Beach hotel lobby. Noemi sat cross-legged against the corridor wall, calculus textbook balanced on her knees, earbuds dangling unplugged around her neck. She wasn't listening to music. She was listening to everything else. The way voices changed when staff entered rooms. The way laughter stopped when her mother pushed a cleaning cart past leather sofas where men discussed oil prices and defense contracts. The way power dressed itself in Italian loafers and ignored anything that didn't reflect light. But if you're watching this, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room where you knew you didn't matter? Where people looked through you like you were furniture? Drop a comment below and tell me your story, because what happens next will make you rethink who really holds power in any room. Noemi had learned survival young. After her father died overseas, no parade, no headlines, just a folded flag and a military chaplain who couldn't pronounce his last name. She understood something most people never do. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. The lobby stretched before her like a cathedral of wealth. Gold-veined marble, chandeliers that caught afternoon sun and split it into rainbows, palm trees in pots worth more than cars. Everything here whispered the same message. You don't belong. Noemi adjusted her headphone cord and returned to her equations. Then the air pressure changed. Someone entered without sound, but the room rearranged itself anyway. What would you do if someone tested your intelligence in a language you weren't supposed to know? The man wore a navy thobe under a tailored Western overcoat. No entourage, no briefcase, no phone pressed to his ear like every other executive who passed through revolving doors expecting the world to pause. He walked with the kind of calm that made security guards straighten their spines without knowing why. Noemi noticed his shoes first, handmade leather, broken in, not for show. Then his hands relaxed at his sides. No Rolex, no rings, nothing that screamed wealth, yet everything about him suggested he could buy the building with a phone call. Sheikh Rayan Al-Khatri didn't look at the chandelier or the marble or the ocean view framed by floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked at people, not the guests checking in, not the executives clustered near the concierge desk pretending to discuss business while actually sizing each other up. He looked at the porter hauling luggage, the housekeeper refilling water pitchers, the maintenance worker replacing a burnt-out bulb. His eyes moved like a soldier scanning for threats, methodical, patient, missing nothing. Staff whispered about him in break rooms. They said he'd built an energy empire across 3 continents, that he funded hospitals but also owned stakes in defense logistics, that governments called him before announcing policy changes, that he once walked away from $1 billion deal because someone lied about worker safety. They also said he tested people, not their resumes or portfolios or quarterly projections, their character. Sheikh Rayan had seen enough boardrooms to know competence without integrity was just efficient cruelty. He'd worked alongside American military contractors during classified operations, watched men die because someone 3 levels up cut corners to pad margins. He'd learned that the most dangerous people weren't the ones who failed. They were the ones who succeeded while crushing everyone beneath them. He stopped near the marble staircase. His gaze landed on Noemi, not curiosity, recognition. Then he turned toward the operations director and switched languages entirely. Could you survive a test you didn't know you were taking? Brent Caldwell's smile stretched too wide, too fast. He'd been watching his phone when Sheikh Rayan approached, scrolling through staff schedules, calculating which shifts he could cut to boost his quarterly bonus. Now he shoved the device into his pocket and extended his hand with the aggressive enthusiasm of someone who mistakes volume for confidence. Mr. Al-Khatri, what an honor. I didn't realize you'd arrived. Let me get you checked in personally. The sheikh didn't take his hand. Caldwell's arm hung in the air for 3 humiliating seconds before he withdrew it, laugh already forming as defense mechanism. He was good at this. The recovery, the pivot, the way he could turn discomfort into someone else's fault. He'd built a career on it. Regional operations director at 39, six-figure salary, performance bonuses for cutting labor costs that executives praised as operational efficiency, and staff experienced as stolen wages and impossible schedules. Maribel Cruz worked 70-hour weeks, but her paychecks reflected 50. When she'd asked about discrepancies, Caldwell had smiled and suggested she reread her contract. When she'd persisted, he'd reminded her how many undocumented workers would happily take her position. She never asked again. He hated that her daughter waited in the corridor after school, said it made guests uncomfortable, lowered the property's image, created liability issues. He'd tried banning Noemi twice. Both times, the head of housekeeping, an older black woman named Claudette who'd worked there 30 years, had quietly made the complaints disappear. Caldwell hated Claudette too, but Sheikh Rayan wasn't looking at him anymore. He was studying the lobby with the expression of someone conducting an inspection no one knew was happening. Then he spoke. Not in English, in Arabic, sharp, regional, dense with tonal shifts that carried meaning beyond vocabulary. He asked one question. Caldwell's smile froze. He understood exactly 3 words: people, clean, and together. Sheikh Rayan waited. Executives nearby stopped talking. Caldwell laughed, nervous, high-pitched, wrong. I'm sorry, sir. I don't speak Arabic. The sheikh nodded slowly, then repeated the question, louder this time. Have you ever watched someone fail a test they didn't know mattered? The Arabic cut through the lobby like a blade through silk. Guests turned. A couple near the fountain paused mid-conversation. The concierge's fingers stopped moving across her keyboard. Even the background music, soft jazz piped through invisible speakers, seemed to drop in volume. Sheikh Rayan's voice didn't rise in anger. It simply occupied space the way gravity does, undeniable, inescapable. Each word landed with precision, the kind of pronunciation that announced fluency, education, authority. When the people who clean your floors disappear, who do you think holds this place together? But Caldwell didn't understand the words. He only understood the feeling. A spotlight he hadn't asked for, burning through the professional costume he wore to work every day. Sweat appeared at his hairline. Look, I can get a translator, he said, voice tight. We have someone on staff who... Sheikh Rayan raised one hand, not a command. Just a small gesture that somehow silenced an entire room. An executive in a gray suit shifted his weight. A woman with a diamond tennis bracelet set down her coffee. Security guard stationed near the entrance turned his head slightly, instinct recognizing something his training manual never covered. The sheikh spoke again. Same question, same dialect. But slower now, each syllable emphasized, the way a teacher might repeat instructions to a student who claimed not to hear. Caldwell's face flushed red. His hands opened and closed at his sides. He glanced toward the executive corridor, searching for rescue that wasn't coming. His mouth opened twice before sound emerged. With all due respect, sir, I'm not sure what you're... A sound interrupted him. Quiet. From below. From the place no one in this building ever looked unless something needed fixing or cleaning. From the floor. Noemi Cruz stood. Her calculus textbook remained on the marble. Her earbuds dangled from her pocket. Her mother's mop paused mid-stroke 10 feet away, and she answered the sheikh in perfect Arabic. What happens when the invisible person in the room knows more than everyone else? The words flowed like water finding its level, natural, effortless, precise, not the formal Arabic taught in college courses or translation apps. The regional Gulf dialect Sheikh Rayan had used, complete with tonal nuances that marked specific education, specific training, specific exposure most Americans never encountered. Noemi didn't perform, didn't project her voice or wait for approval. She simply responded to the question as though conversations in Arabic happened in luxury hotel lobbies every day. They hold everything together, she said. The people you don't see are the foundation. When they disappear, the structure collapses. But those in charge rarely notice until it's too late. Then she added something the sheikh hadn't asked for. Something that landed like a stone dropped into still water. Places fall apart when those in charge stop seeing the people beneath them as human. A server dropped his tray. The crash echoed. Porcelain shattered. Coffee spread across marble in a dark stain that matched the expression on Caldwell's face. Shock bleeding into something uglier. The security guard near the entrance actually stepped forward, hand moving toward his radio before he caught himself. An elderly woman clutching a Pomeranian stopped in the doorway, frozen mid-step. The executive in the gray suit stared openly, mouth slightly open. Maribel's mop handle clattered against the floor. Claudette appeared from somewhere behind the concierge desk, her face unreadable. Sheikh Rayan's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. The recognition of finding something unexpected, something valuable in a place everyone else had stopped looking. He asked another question, this one longer, more complex, testing grammar structures, verb conjugations, cultural context embedded in phrasing that couldn't be faked or memorized. Noemi answered without hesitation. He asked a third question, hypothetical scenario requiring understanding of diplomatic nuance, the kind of language used in negotiations where one misplaced word could cost lives. She responded thoughtfully, precisely, adding context that demonstrated not just vocabulary, but comprehension. The lobby held its breath. When Sheikh Rayan finally stopped, the silence felt sacred, charged, like the moment after lightning before thunder arrives. He switched to English. Where did you learn to speak like this? Noemi hesitated for the first time. Her throat moved. Her hands stayed still at her sides. Her father's training, posture under pressure. My father taught me, she said quietly. He was a U.S. Army linguist. He died overseas. He said languages save lives, so I should learn as many as I could. Sheikh Rayan's eyes sharpened, because he knew that accent, that training pattern, that philosophy, and suddenly, the test wasn't about Caldwell anymore. What would you do if your hidden skill saved your family? Sheikh Rayan asked the next question before anyone could breathe. This one tested verb tenses most native speakers struggled with, conditional phrasing used in military briefings, the kind of Arabic that separated translators from linguists, amateurs from professionals who trained under fire. Noemi answered immediately. No pause, no stumble. Her response included proper grammatical structure and cultural awareness that couldn't be learned from textbooks or apps downloaded the night before. He switched dialects mid-sentence. From Gulf to Levantine, testing adaptability. She adjusted without missing a beat. Around them, the hotel had become a theater. Guests lined the mezzanine railing above. Staff emerged from back corridors. Caldwell stood frozen, his performance smile long dead, replaced by something harder to hide, fear mixed with rage at being outmatched by a teenager in secondhand jeans. Sheikh Rayan fired 3 more questions in rapid succession, each one more complex than the last. Noemi responded to all of them with the same calm precision, her voice never rising, never showing off, just answering because she'd been asked. When he finally stopped, he switched back to English, not for her benefit, for everyone else's. Your father, he said. What was his name? Noemi's hands tightened slightly at her sides, the first crack in her composure. Her mother had gone completely still near the staircase, mop forgotten, knuckles white around the handle. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cruz, Noemi said. He worked joint operations with coalition forces, translation, cultural advising, intelligence support. He died in an ambush outside Kandahar 7 years ago. The lobby air turned heavy. Sheikh Rayan closed his eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression. Recognition shifting into certainty. I knew him, he said quietly. Not his name. We didn't exchange names during operations. But I knew his work. His competence saved lives during a logistics nightmare most people will never hear about. Noemi's breath caught. There was an ambush, Sheikh Rayan continued. Supply convoy, miscommunication between units. Your father translated under fire, clarified coordinates, prevented friendly fire casualties, extracted wounded soldiers while rounds were still incoming. He didn't survive, but 14 others did because of him. Maribel's knees buckled. Claudette caught her before she fell. Noemi stood perfectly straight, her father's daughter, trained not to break in public. Sheikh Rayan turned slowly toward Caldwell and spoke again in Arabic, softer this time, but somehow more devastating. You humiliate the daughter of a man who died protecting people like you. Then he added one more sentence. Security moved before he finished speaking. When does justice stop being revenge and become something necessary? Caldwell tried to interrupt. Now wait just a... Two security guards flanked him before his hand left his pocket. Not roughly, not dramatically, just efficiently, the way professionals handle situations they've trained for, but hoped never to use. Sir, we need you to come with us, the taller guard said. Caldwell's face went from red to pale in seconds. His eyes darted around the lobby, searching for allies, witnesses, anyone who might intervene. He found only faces turning away, guests suddenly interested in their phones, executives remembering urgent meetings elsewhere. This is ridiculous, Caldwell said, voice climbing. I'm the regional operations director. You can't just... Actually, Sheikh Rayan said in English now, his tone unchanged. They can. He produced a phone from his coat pocket, held it up so Caldwell could see the screen. Security footage, time-stamped, dated, showing Caldwell in his office adjusting payroll records, skimming hours, rerouting overtime payments into discretionary accounts. I've been reviewing internal systems for 3 weeks, Sheikh Rayan continued. Anonymous complaints filed through corporate HR, wage discrepancies, forced schedule violations, staff intimidation documented by your own security cameras. Caldwell's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I wasn't staying at this hotel, Sheikh Rayan said. I was finalizing an acquisition. The purchase completed yesterday. As of this morning, I own this property, which means I own every employment contract, every complaint file, every piece of footage. The lobby went silent again. Different silence this time. Heavier, final. The Arabic wasn't random, Sheikh Rayan continued. It was confirmation. I needed to see how you treated people when you thought no one important was watching. I needed to understand whether the complaints were isolated incidents or system-wide rot. He gestured toward Noemi and Maribel. And then this young woman, whose father gave his life in service, demonstrated more competence, more dignity, more intelligence in 3 minutes than you've shown in 3 years. While you stole from her mother and treated them both like obstacles. Sheikh Rayan's voice dropped even lower. You're terminated, effective immediately. Legal will contact you regarding restitution and potential criminal charges. Security began walking Caldwell toward the side exit. His protests echoed across marble until doors closed behind him. Then Claudette spoke for the first time. Maribel Cruz, she said clearly, you're needed in the executive office. Maribel looked like she might faint. Have you ever been punished for someone else's crime? Maribel's legs barely carried her down the corridor. Claudette walked beside her, steady as always, offering no reassurance because empty promises weren't her style. Noemi followed 3 steps behind, calculus book clutched against her chest like a shield, trying to read her mother's spine for clues about what came next. The executive office smelled like leather and furniture polish. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean. A desk the size of Maribel's kitchen dominated the space. Sheikh Rayan stood near the window. Another man sat in a chair nearby. Older, white-haired, expensive suit, lawyer written across every detail. Maribel stopped just inside the doorway. Her hands twisted the hem of her cleaning uniform. 7 years of survival instinct screamed at her to apologize for something, anything, whatever they thought she'd done wrong. Mrs. Cruz, Sheikh Rayan said, please sit. She didn't move. You're not in trouble, he added. Her knees finally bent. She sat on the edge of a leather chair like it might collapse under her. The lawyer opened a folder, slid papers across the desk. We've audited the last 3 years of payroll, he said. You're owed $42,000 in unpaid wages, stolen overtime, and miscategorized hours. That amount will be transferred to your account by end of business today. Maribel blinked. Her mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Additionally, Sheikh Rayan continued, we're implementing new management structure. Claudette Johnson has been promoted to Director of Hospitality Operations. She's requested you for her leadership training program, 6 months, full salary, benefits included. If you complete the program successfully, you'll move into a management position. Maribel's eyes filled. She didn't make a sound, but tears tracked down her face, dripping onto her uniform. You don't have to answer now, Sheikh Rayan said. Take time to process. Discuss with your daughter. But understand this. You earned this. Not through charity, through years of competence under someone who tried to break you. He turned toward Noemi, who still stood near the door. Your daughter's education, he said. I'd like to fund it. Noemi's grip on her textbook tightened. Not as a gift, Sheikh Rayan clarified, as an investment. Your father saved lives with language. I suspect you will too. When does an opportunity become a responsibility? 3 years later, Noemi stood in a conference room in Geneva. Around her, diplomats argued in 4 different languages. A border dispute between 2 nations, oil rights tangled with ethnic tensions. Decades of violence compressed into talking points no one trusted. She translated. Not just words, context, cultural meaning. The difference between insult and ignorance. When someone said traditional boundaries, whether they meant geographic borders or ethnic hierarchies. A Lebanese diplomat stopped mid-sentence when she corrected his verb tense, not to embarrass him, but because the grammatical error changed his entire proposal from compromise to ultimatum. He stared at her, then nodded slowly. The negotiation continued. Afterward, the lead mediator, a Swedish woman who'd worked conflict zones for 30 years, pulled Noemi aside. Where did you train? She asked. My father, Noemi said. He taught me that languages don't just communicate, they prevent violence. The woman studied her. He was right. You saved that room today. Back in Florida, Maribel managed 3 hotel properties now. She completed the training program, then another, then started teaching hospitality ethics to new staff. She no longer cleaned floors. She built systems that protected the people who did. Claudette had retired last year, 72 years old, pension fully funded, respect intact. She'd handed Maribel her keys and said, You earned every single one of these. The hotel still sparkled. Crystal chandeliers still caught sunlight. Guests still paid premium rates for ocean views and marble lobbies. But staff break rooms had photos now, names on plaques, recognition for years of service, fair wages, transparent scheduling, a suggestion box that actually got read. And sometimes when new executives toured the property, someone would point to a photo near the main staircase, a teenage girl in a school uniform sitting against a wall with textbooks stacked on her lap. They'd tell the story. About the day silence spoke louder than authority, about the daughter who answered when no one else could, about what happened when someone finally looked down instead of up. Who are you overlooking right now? The lobby returned to normal eventually. New guests checked in without knowing what happened there. Business travelers rushed through revolving doors. Tourists took photos of chandeliers. The ocean kept rolling beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, but the staff remembered. They remembered the day a man in a thobe tested everyone's character without announcing the exam. They remembered Caldwell being escorted out while trying to explain why stealing from employees was actually efficiency. They remembered a teenage girl answering questions in a language she wasn't supposed to know. Most of all, they remembered the lesson that settled into the building's foundation like rebar in concrete. Power doesn't come from titles. It comes from seeing people everyone else decided were invisible. Sheikh Rayan still owned the property. He visited twice a year, always unannounced, always watching how managers treated housekeeping staff, maintenance crews, servers who refilled water glasses. Once, he overheard a new assistant manager snap at a porter for being too slow with luggage. The assistant manager was unemployed by lunch. Noemi didn't return to the hotel often. Her work kept her in places where words mattered more than weapons, where one mistranslation could restart wars and precision save thousands. But when she did visit, she sat in the same spot against the corridor wall. Same posture, same stillness. Staff would walk past and nod. Not because she was famous, because she reminded them that competence lives everywhere if you bother looking. And sometimes, late at night when the lobby emptied and marble floors reflected nothing but moonlight, you could almost hear it. The echo of a question asked in Arabic, answered by someone the world had decided didn't matter. The most dangerous mistake isn't ignorance. It's certainty that you already know who deserves your attention. The powerful voice in any room might be the one you've trained yourself not to hear, and the person who changes everything might be sitting on the floor, waiting, listening, ready. Who will you choose to see today?